So hello, I am Hamida Rebai. Today we will embark on journey of API mastery in the session. We will explore the holistic approach to API success, covering design, development, and thriving in the API ecosystem. We uncover the secrets to seamless API lifecycle management from inception to development to deployment also. Let's learn best practices for user-friendly API design, ensuring an exceptional developer experience. Whether you are a seasoned architect or an inspiring developer, this session offers valuable insight to elevate your API from development to deployments. So let's start unlocking the full potential of API design and development for to keep the digital in landscape. Who I am? I am Microsoft MVP in developer technologies. I am cloud solution architect, working a lot with APIs to ensure the migration of our application using microservices or any other architected. So I am also Microsoft certified trainer and a Docker captains. If you have any questions after this session, you can reach me by Twitter, LinkedIn, by email. You can see a lot of blogs in my blog medium here. You find the link. So to start, we will talk about unlocking the full potential of APIs in the beginning. We have some questions to ask and to answer. For example, what are APIs? What are the importance of using the APIs? This is why we need to talk about principles of building, deploying, implementing really good API. So we need to talk about API design, good API design. We focus more about user-centered design, API design, the best practices that we recommend really, type of APIs, API development, the best practices, not only by design, development, lifecycle management, what are the developer experience, and in the end, talk about the different tools and platforms. So in digital, today in digital landscape, APIs, or we call it application programming interfaces, have become a critical component of modern software development. They enable different software systems to communicate and share data with each other, making it possible to build complex and innovative applications. During this session, we will explore the topic of APIs and their importance in the digital landscape. We will preview the key topics that will be covered in the presentation here, including the principles of good APIs, best practices for API development, lifecycle management, developer experience. In the end, we'll have a solid understanding of APIs. This is why how we to design, develop, manage them effectively. Whether you are, in this case, able to start your API journey and play with the APIs and unlock the full potential of APIs for unparalleled success in the digital landscape. So, what are APIs? Some definition to start before talking about the best practices, the design, the development. So, APIs are a set of protocols, routines, and tools for building software applications. They define the method and data format that a software application should use to communicate with other software applications. They have a role, really crucial role, in connecting different software systems and enabling them to communicate and share data with each other. They provide a standard, let's say a standardized way for software applications to interact with each other, making it possible to build complex and innovative application. Let's take some examples of APIs here, for example. So a common usage APIs. We start by social media because really we use social media. Social media APIs. Social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, they provide APIs that allow developers to access their data and functionally. For example, I give you an example for social media. Developer can use the API of Twitter to build a tool that analyzes tweets, or API of Facebook, for example, to build a chatbot. Another important example here that really need to use APIs, that is payment gateway APIs. Payment gateway provides, like PayPal, Square, Stripe, for example, they provide APIs allowing developer to integrate payment processing functionality into their applications. For example, I am a developer and I need really to integrate a payment part in my website. So I will use the Stripe API to build an e-commerce website, mobile applications. So it's the same. We use an API really to just communicate with this provider, payment provider. Another sector, we call that sector. This is why, because weather sector here, we need to use APIs, weather platforms, Open Weather, for example, Weather Stack, or any other website, let's say for the weather, provides APIs that allow developer to access weather data and forecasts. For example, I'm a developer. I would like to use the Open Weather APIs, the most used by developers, to build a weather application and a weather dashboard. I need that to give more statistics, analytics after maybe. So it depends from the needs. But we use APIs really simple with these websites. Mapping APIs. Mapping platform. Here we talk about maps like Google Maps, Mapbox, Bing Maps. They provide APIs that allow developers to integrate mapping functionalities in their application. I come back, I'm really developer. I need to use really the map in my to build ride hailing, for example, apps or delivery application or any other application that needs to integrate really a map. Email APIs is most used also because email platform. I give an example of email platform for SendGrid, MailGain, and other solution of mailing. It provides API that allow developer to send and receive emails programmatically. So as a developer, I would like to use SendGrid API to build an email marketing tool and transactional email system. By providing a strong way for the for software application or standard way for the software application to interact with each other, APIs really enable developer to build complex and innovative application that can access a wide range of data and functionalities. By using common APIs, developer can save time and resources and focus on really building unique features and functionalities that differentiate their application from others. So we see here what are APIs, how we use APIs, now why they are really important APIs. So APIs serve as a linchpin for efficient communication and data exchange between diverse software systems, streamlining operations, and reducing manual efforts. So we increase efficiency. It increases really efficiency because APIs enable different software systems to communicate and share data with each other, making it possible to automate business processes and reduce manual efforts. Maybe here we need an example. A company can use an API to integrate its CRM system with its accounting system, eliminating the need for manual data entry and reducing the risk of errors. So we have some challenges in integration and connectivity because APIs, in this case, enable different software systems to communicate and work together, acting as a connective tissue. For example, I give an example. In the supply chain sector, APIs integrate inventory management system with customer relationship management CRM software, ensuring real-time visibility and coordination. Let's take another industry like finance industry. API connect banks with fintech services, allowing customers to manage their financial, let's say, financial tools effectively through different application they are able to use with their banks. Another element to consider is in automation. APIs allow repetitive tasks to be automated, improving efficiency and reducing the potential for human errors. By leveraging APIs, businesses can streamline processes, ensuring swift and accurate execution tasks. APIs, they are important for innovation because APIs foster innovation by enabling developers to build a new application and services on top of existing platform. We consider how APIs have transformed industry in e-commerce because they empower seamless payment gateway, inventory management, and any order processing. Travel and hospitality, APIs facilitate real-time flight booking, auto reservation, and travel itineraries. In healthcare, API connect electronic health record systems, enabling interoperability and better patient care. Social media, for we talked about that in the beginning, because API drives social media integration in application. It allow to user to share content and authenticate using this platform, for example, Facebook, Twitter, and weather services because API provide weather data for countless applications from mobile application to any other agricultural, for example, planning. We have scalability also, where API enables businesses to scale their operation by allowing them to easily integrate new software system and services. For example, we have a company that can use an API to integrate a new payment gateway, as we said before, and new shipment provider with having or to rebuild the entire system. So we don't need to rebuild all the entire system because we consume this API. So we get information from a different APIs. And we give an example of API transforming industry again and businesses. We said healthcare, social media, we have transportation also, financial, for example, retail. Retail, for example, here API have transformed the retail industry by enabling the development of e-commerce. We see here e-commerce platform. We have marketplace, personalized shopping experience, and this platform use APIs to manage inventory, process and payment, provide personalized recommendation. We see that we can use APIs in any sector, so it's really important to use APIs if you'd like to build modern solution, cloud native solution, microservice using microservice, for example, the best practices for in this case, and it's a way to you. It's a way that allows you to interact between a service to another sometimes. So, by providing access to data and functionalities, APIs enable businesses to automate processes, scale operations, and innovate. And when we use APIs, businesses can reduce costs, improve efficiency, and provide better experience to their customers. Now, let's see the three principles here. We have more, but we focus about three principles of building a good, let's say, a good API design. What is good API design? Good API design is essential for creating interfaces that are intuitive, efficient, and developer friendly. And several principles guide the design of high quality APIs. It includes simplicity. Let's start by the first one. Because when you simplify the API interface, you will minimize complexity and it improves usability and reduce the learning curve for developers. Simple APIs are easy to understand, implement, and maintain, leading to faster adoption and reduced development time. Consistency. So, consistency in API design promotes predictability and reduces cognitive load for developers. So, by adhering to consist naming conventions, parameters, formats, and error handling strategy, APIs become more intuitive and easier to work with across different endpoints and functionalities. And clarity, which means that clear and concise documentation, along with descriptive naming convention and error messages, enhances the understandability of APIs And clear APIs reduce ambiguity and enable developer to quickly grasp their proposed functionality and usage. Now we talk more about centered design. What is user centered design? It's a methodology that prioritizes understanding and addressing the needs, preferences, and workflows of end users throughout the design process. When applying the API design, user centered design focuses on creating interfaces that are intuitive, efficient, and enjoyable for the developer to use. You can see here simplicity and really clear APIs in design also. This is why we call that user-centered API. And the different key principle of user-centered API design is first one, understanding user needs, which means that conducting throughout the research to identify the goals, challenges, and preference of API consumers. And this includes understanding their technical expertise, use cases, and pain points. Interactive design and testing, which means that we need to employ not interactive, only iterative approach to design, where prototypes and mockups are created and refined based on user feedback. It's like deploying any application. In this case, we talk about something that's related to any app design. And usability testing is conducted at each stage to validate design decision and identify areas for improvement. And prioritizing usability means that prioritizing simplicity, we already covered before, simplicity, consistency, clarity to optimize developer experience. And API should be easy to understand, discoverable, and well documented with intuitive naming convention and error handling mechanism. And I will give you some examples of well designed APIs, like Stripe API. It's loaded for its simplicity, consistency, and developer experience documentation. It's really intuitive design. It allows the developer to seamlessly integrate payment process functionality into their application with minimal of efforts. Twilio API, it's really known a lot. Its API amplifies user-centered design principle because it offers a straightforward and well-documented interface for building communication applications. And with clear naming convention and extensive developer resources. With Twilio APIs, it enables to developers to easily incorporate SMS, voice, video communication features into their applications. Another API that's really a lot used, that is Google Maps APIs, because we need to integrate it to get a map, is praised for its robust functionality and easy of use by providing developer with access to powerful mapping and geolocation services through a user-friendly interface. And Google Maps API facilitate the creation of innovative location-based application. Another element with Google Maps here API, it's comprehensive documentation and extensive support resource contribute to its popularity among developers. The question here in the end we asked here, what makes them successful really? So the most used, maybe we have others, but they are really most used in the market by developers. So let's start by the first one, why they are successful, intuitive design. So well-designed APIs, it prioritizes simplicity, easy of use, making it easy for developer to understand and implement the functionalities they need. Comprehensive documentation. This is really important because if you have good documentation, you get successful APIs. You need to provide clear and comprehensive documentation, including user examples, code snippet, troubleshooting guides to support developers throughout the integration processes. Developer resources, it offers additional resources like SDKs, libraries, community forums, enhance the developer experience and fosters a thriving ecosystem around the API. let's take a look about the API design best practices. What we need to learn more about that, the best practices when we design our APIs. Effective API design is crucial for creating interfaces that are intuitive, maintainable, scalable, and several best practices contribute to successful API design, including versioning. So we need to implement the version strategy allows you for the evolution of the API while maintaining backward compatibility with existing clients. Versioning can be achieved through URL path, for example, version 1 with a specific resource or any request header to accept version 1, for example. The second one of the best practices, is naming convention. Consistent and intuitive naming convention enhance the clarity and usability of the API. Meaningfully and descriptive names should be used for endpoint parameters, methods, and results facilitate easy understanding and discovering. Error handling, because effective error handling mechanisms provide more information about the error messages and guidings, and it guides you on resolving issues, improving the developer experience in this case. So we have different error standard, let's say error codes, clear error messages, anything related to the message description that can help developers to diagnose and troubleshoot problems effectively. Documentation, we come back again to documentation here. Best one of the best practices when you design your APIs, because we need to a comprehensive and up-to-date documentation. This help and guide developers in using the API really effectively. And it should include the examples, as we said before, different code snippets, endpoint description, parameter details, error handling, guidelines to facilitate integration. Security, we need to secure APIs. It's really important to get way to secure your API, because implementing robust security measures, for example, authentication, authorization, encryption, safeguards sensitive data, and prevents unauthorized access to the API. Security best practices, including HTTPS protocols, auto authentication, and API key management, should be allowed to protect against security threats. And we have another element important here, that's performance optimization. Because when you optimize your API performance, this will improve responsiveness and scalability, enhancing the overall user experience. And techniques such as caching, pagination, asynchronous processing, and rate limiting help minimize latency and handle high volumes of request efficiency. Some example of common mistakes to avoid in this case: inconsistent name, which means that using inconsistent naming convention for endpoint parameters and resource can lead to confusion and difficulty in understanding the API's structure and functionality. Lack of versioning. Failing to implement this case, versioning can result in breaking changes that disrupt existing client implementation and lead to capability issues. Poor error handling, which means providing vague of inconsistent error messages can frustrate developer and hinder troubleshooting effort, leading to suboptimal user experience. Documentation, inadequate documentation. We don't have really good documentation. Security, weak security measure. It's a risk for your customer, for that are the users, developers to consume your API. And suboptimal performance, we come back off one of the things to consider, like performance. Ignoring performance optimization techniques can result in slow response times, downtime, and degraded user experience. This will impact scalability, reliability of your API. Here we have some examples of, let's say, types of APIs. We have more types, but we'd like to cover today these two types. Let's start by the first one. So they comes with specific various forms, and we start by the first one, that is REST, representational states transferred. We will cover the strengths, weaknesses, but it depends from you. So you need to use this one, the first type, the second one, but you need to understand the difference between them. So let's start by the first one, simplicity. In this case, how it's really simple because we have some standard HTTP method like get, post, put, delete for CRUD operations, for example. For scalability, REST APIs are stateless and cacheable, let's say, making them highly scalable and suitable for distributed architectures. Wide adoption, because they're really widely adopted and supported by a vast ecosystem of tools, framework, and libraries. We will see some examples at the end. Weakness here, let's take a look about some weaknesses. Overfitting and underfitting. It maybe REST APIs offers often suffer from overfishing, which means retrieving more data than needed, or underfishing, requiring multiple requests to fetch related data. Rigidity and REST API can become rigid when dealing with evolving requirements or complex data structure requirements, frequent changes to endpoints. Let's go to GraphQL. Flexible querying. It's really simple to query. It's like SQL querying, simple, allow the client to request exactly the data they need with a simple query. We reduce in this case overfitting and underfitting that are the weaknesses of REST. In this case, we have strong typing also, which means that the GraphQL schema provides strong typing, enabling client to discover and understand the available data and its structure, rapid development, and for weaknesses here for GraphQL, complexity. Because if you implement and optimize GraphQL servers can be more complex compared to REST. Caching, caching. So we don't have really support caching mechanism. It requires additional effort to implement caching strategy in this case. Tooling and ecosystem, yes, it's they gain it really popularity, but its ecosystem and tooling are still evolving compared to REST. gRPC or remote procedure call performance, it offers high performance, low latency, communicate through binary serialization and HTTP2 transport, strong typing because it uses protocol buffers for message serialization, providing strong typing and efficient data transmission and code generation because we support for client and server steps in multiple languages. It reduces boilerplate code and promoting consistent. And the weaknesses, it's really complex as GraphQL to implement, maintain, compared always by REST in this case. Compatibility, it's not suitable for all use cases. You need to see what's your use cases, particularly those requiring compatibility with existing RESTful APIs and web-based client, and adoption and learning curve. Yes, they try to gain traction, but its adoption and learning curve may be stripped compared to REST due to novel concept and technology. And here we have some API development best practices. Before we talked about design, now we talk about best practices related to developments. It requires, uh, in this case, here we have best practice across various aspects. We have conduct throughout testing, as we talk about the testing at each stage of API development. It includes unit tests, integration testing. We need to implement test-driven development practices to write tests before codes. If you talk about security, we need to prioritize security consideration throughout the API development lifecycle, including authentication, authorization, data encryption, and input validation, for example. We talked about some. They are the same best practices as the design for security, integrating HTTPS for secure communication, how to regular audit and review API security measures to identify and address potential vulnerabilities proactively, and documentation, provide comprehensive and update documentation. So we have the same best practices to consider for development also. API lifecycle management, they are essential for ensuring the smooth and efficient development, deployment, and maintenance of APIs. So we need to ensure consistency. In this case, if we talk about importance of API lifecycles, facilitate collaboration because in API lifecycle management fosters collaboration between cross-functional teams, including developers, testers, architects, stakeholder. We have different users in this case. Enhance agility, optimize performance, improve governance and compliance. In API lifecycle management, we need to ensure compliance with industry standard, regularity requirement, and organizational policies, mitigating risk and ensuring data security and privacy. And for role of, in this case here, we have the role of DevOps in API development, DevOps, automation, CI/CD. DevOps emphasize collaboration, automation, continuous integration, practices to streamline the development and deployment of software products. We apply the same thing as we develop any application. DevOps principles such as infrastructure as a code, we need to apply that, automate everything as a code, let's say in this case. DevOps encourage culture of experimentation, also feedbacks, continuous improvement. And how we ensure a smooth and efficient API process in this case? We need to establish clear processes, adopt agile methodologies, automate where possible, everything as code, let's say. Foster collaboration because we have technical team, DevOps team, operation team, developer team. You have a different person, no IT team, we call that. And implementation DevOps practices. So integrate the DevOps in as a culture inside when you try to develop your API management. Here we talk about developer experience. We need to provide, we said, a great experience, developer experience. This help you to consume your API by developers. So we have importance of great developer experience that drives adoption, enhance productivity, foster loyalty, promotion, innovation, and differentiate from other competitor. We already mentioned three, for example, but you can have more, and we have a competition. And what we said how they are in competition in this case. Creating APIs that are ease of use to use and understand. So clear, we said clear documentation, simple code tutorials, community behind, let's say interaction API explorer, developer friendly error handling, community support, really community, public community. And we have role of documentation. We already focus on about documentation, having things clear, simple code, interaction API. So we have covered all of these elements. So it's applied also for developer experience. And we finish here by mentioning some tools and platforms. We'd like to manage the API lifecycle effectively require the use of specialized tools and platforms to streamline processes. We need to ensure quality, monitor processes. Let's see some examples of tools and platforms we can have more by the most used in the market. Let's start by the first one, API Gateway. API gateways for you can have a lot of solution like a Google Cloud Platform, Azure API management. You have a lot of API gateways of any provider cloud. It offers a comprehensive API management solution that includes API gateway, developer, portal, analytics, security feature. It enables organization design, deploy, secure, and monitor APIs at scale. You can have other open source API gateway, for example, Kong, and microservices management platform. This provides traffic control, rate limitation, authentication. So we have other product, not only cloud product, let's say. Monitoring tools here, for example, New Relief. It's an example of one. Datadog. You can have other monitoring tools, and you can use what's in what if you'd like to have your API gateway or API management with a provider. We can use monitoring tools of any cloud provider in this case. Testing framework. Don't forget to use some testing framework. As a developer, I used a lot Postman, for example. It's really popular for API development and testing tool, and allows developer to design, test, document APIs in collaborative environments. And it supports a lot of things for automated testing, collecting, sharing. You are able to integrate CI/CD pipelines, for example, to automate a little process. Swagger or Open API, sorry, it's Swagger, now known Open API is a specification or Swagger when you implement .NET application, most known than Open API. And here it's specification for describing and documenting a RESTful API. It's really provide a lot of tools, generating API documentation. It's allow you to do that. Clients SDK. Version control system, you can use any one, GitHub, GitLab, for example, Azure DevOps, Git, for example, whatever. Design and documentation platform. I come back to Swagger, its platform for designing, documenting, and managing API using the Open API specification. So you are able to get good collaboration features, versioning, integration with source code, source control systems. Another tool is Stoplight, a API design documentation platform that was used before also that helps team collaborate on API design, document API with interactive documentation, ensure API consistency with the style guide and lighting. And here we see, so we to summarize our session today, so we explore the essential principles, best practices, and tools for mastering APIs, design, and development. And here, let's say some takeaways from what we already present. Holistic approach. We embrace a holistic approach for API success. Why? Because we have the design best practices, development, driving the API ecosystem. One of the best practices we consider in design on development or deployment also simplicity, consistency, clarity, life cycle management, API lifecycle management. We need to import to understand really the API lifecycle management for seamless development deployment and to be able to maintain our APIs when try to development. DevOps integration, CI/CD, so different tools and platform in the end. So we presented some tools that you are able to use, like API Gateway and any other tools related to CI/CD, for example. So monitoring tools, testing framework, and manage the APIs. I'm encourage you to apply these